Well, friends, if I could invite you to come and take a seat, that would be great. There's some seats here at the front, just on my right, your left. Make a new friend. If welcome to St. Luke's. My name's Gareth. Part of the team here. Happen to be the vicar here at St. Luke's, and just want to say a little bit about this evening, just to set a bit of the context. And firstly, we're a church that really care about our community. And we're a church, along with many other churches in Maidstone, that want to make a difference and be a positive influence in our community. And there are a number of churches represented here tonight. I'm delighted that we've also got this evening members of other disciplines in the community. We've got people here who are Senko leads, people who are here who are head teachers, people who are here from the medical profession, and I just want to say, for whatever reason you've come this evening, I want to say thank you for taking the time out this evening and joining us on this information evening as we explore in what it might look like in Maidstone for there to be a Growing Hope clinic. We'll find out more about that in a minute. But I firstly just want to say thank you. But I wonder, just before we kind of move on with the rest of the program, if you might turn to someone that you don't yet know, introduce yourself and say why you're here. Okay? Your name and why you're here. Okay. Well, hopefully you've met someone new, and hopefully you've said to them why you're here, and they've said to you why you're here. And if you're here tonight for the crocheting evening, you're in the wrong place. Just to say a little bit about the journey of St. Luke's and how we've got to this point this evening. Around about 3 years ago, a number of our church went away to a Christian festival. And there was a number of seminars on at this festival, and one of them was given by Naomi, who's here this evening, who's the founder of Growing Hope. And that was about 3 years ago. And since then, real conversation has just started bubbling up in this church, particularly because as a local church, we have a number of children who are part of our church community with additional needs. And we are trying our very best to help support them in the context of a Christian community, and particularly Sunday mornings where we have a full kids program from noughts through to sort of 11s, and then teenagers as well. And we have some teenagers with additional needs as well as young children. And one of the things that we're trying to do is to really work hard at welcoming children who are neurodiverse and adults who are neurodiverse. You'll kind of see here we have a Hollie, what do we call that? Visuals timetable, schedule. for a Sunday morning service. It's quite simple, but it is there for adults and for children to help them sort of track what is happening, what happens here as a church on a Sunday. And we have similar timetables in each of our children's groups as well. We have little thumb fidget toys, and we have kind of ear defenders as well. And we have a little kind of gazebo tent, and we have tents in each of the children's rooms as well as sort of safe retreat spaces. So we're trying as a church, and we certainly don't think we've got it right, but we want to learn, and we want to be a church that is welcoming to absolutely everybody. And so this idea that sort of Naomi sort of dropped in the minds of a couple of people in our church, who then went on to read your book, and then kind of like said to me, Gareth, I wonder if we should do something here. And I was very aware of the work of Growing Hope through partnership and friendships with the church leader that Naomi, the church that Naomi used to attend in central London, and that Growing Hope was setting up clinics, and we're keen to set up clinics nationally. And in fact, part of the vision is to set up something like 30 clinics over the next 20 by 2030. Well, there we go. That's amazing. Incredible vision. And so we've just started exploring with Naomi, and we gathered a small group of people in this church, but also from Connect Church in Maidstone. And we just started having a conversation. And we've had a couple of Zoom calls with Naomi. And we just thought, we need to make this a bit bigger. We need to broaden this. And we are certainly at the place where we feel and we think it is right to move forward, but we want to know that there are partners and stakeholders that might want to journey with us in this, because whilst it might be something that sits in a local church, we want it to very much to be a collaboration of different groups in our community, whether that's medical, whether that's education, whether that's social services. We want to partner with other people, because one of the things that we know is that no one organization can really take on the challenges that we face in our community. There has to be partnership, there has to be collaboration. We need to be perhaps less defensive of our own agendas, but actually seek to work better, partnering, not for ourselves, but actually for the people, and particularly in this context, children and young people that we want to serve. One element of the sort of Growing Hope that we've discussed with Naomi has been around particularly mental health and the well-being, particularly of teenagers. Those of you that have been around Maidstone will know that last year there were 3 teenage suicides, and we don't want that. We don't want that, and we want to do all that we can to provide preventative support and education, particularly to parents who have got teenagers who might be struggling with mental health. And certainly the model of Growing Hope is one of the ways in which we believe that we could help bring that to the community. And so it's supporting children and families with additional needs, and also children and families where they're struggling with their mental health. And so that's the journey, in one sense, that has got us to this place. But before I ask Naomi to come up, we're just going to watch a short video. You may have seen it already, but I'd love you to watch this, which is just a little bit of a taste or an introduction to the work of Growing Hope.
Growing Hope provides free therapy for children with additional needs in partnership with local churches. Therapy can be instrumental in helping children thrive. However, waiting lists are frustratingly long, and private therapy is simply not an option for most families. We aim to bridge the gap between the need and the availability of therapy services. At Growing Hope local clinics, we support children with learning, physical, mental health or undiagnosed needs. We help children like Adam, who has autism. Occupational therapy has helped him to focus for longer, get dressed and engage in play with his mum Regia. Therapy is tailored to the child and can also include physio, speech and language and music therapy or counselling. We want everyone to know that they are seen, heard, and belong. We grow hope for families through taking the time to ask parents like Regia how they are, and within sessions equipping them with strategies to help at home. Additional needs affects the whole family. Our courses create a safe place for parents and siblings to process their experiences and find new hope. We believe that Jesus brings hope even in the most difficult situations. We share this, asking families if there's anything they'd like to pray about in their sessions, with no pressure if they don't want to. Our clinics are open to individuals of all faiths and backgrounds. We always stop to listen to families, doing our best to stand with them in hard times.
Great, there we go. Why don't we welcome Naomi?
Thank you.
Hello, friend. Are you all right?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. Yeah.
So, Naomi's a friend, by the way, and Naomi has recently just got married.
I have, yeah.
To another friend of mine, which is great. So, congratulations on your wedding.
Thank you.
And but we're here to talk about growing hope, not your wedding and honeymoon photos.
Yeah.
So, tell us about your journey, Naomi. How you got to be in this place of being the founder of Growing Hope.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as Gareth said, I'm Naomi. I am an occupational therapist by training. So I look at all the things children do every day, whether that's washing, dressing, eating, playing, writing, concentrating, see if there's anything that children find difficult, why they might find it difficult, and how I can help make it easier. I don't know if there are any fellow OTs in the room. Oh, I can spot a few. Amazing. So, that's what I do. And as a child, I had actually always had this thing in me of wanting to help and wanting to be able to support people. When I was 14 or so, I was volunteering at New Wine, which some of you may be familiar with, but I worked with a young girl who she couldn't walk, she couldn't talk, she couldn't eat, she couldn't do very much by herself, and yet she carried the most amazing sense of God's peace and God's presence with her wherever she went, and I felt like it was just amazing to get the chance to be with her and to learn from her. And she really sadly died, but person after person after person at her funeral got up and said how much they were impacted by her life and by the kind of peace that this little girl carried. And for me, I feel like God is a God who speaks value over every single child and young person and adult, and that's really important to me. And when I was at uni, I went and spent some time in Thailand, and then after uni I went and spent some time in India, and in both of those places what I saw was the local church there stepping in the gap for these children, young people and families with additional needs who needed support, and I had the opportunity to get to go and join in with what those churches were doing, and what I saw was actually those churches and those individuals bringing faith and therapy together in a way that I hadn't seen happen in the UK. And I was then working in the UK. I was working both in the NHS up in Northumberland, so not in this neck of the woods, but then in private practice in London. And I had a family who were coming to private occupational therapy and had bailiffs knocking on their door demanding them to give them money, and they were still coming and paying for therapy. And that was the level of desperation that we saw in families who were coming to receive support. So I really felt like, gosh, there is so much need out there. I'm an occupational therapist. I've got gifts and skills that I could be using. I'm in a church, which is an amazing resource in the community. The church used to historically be very much a part of healthcare in this country, and that's obviously very much changed, but actually what would it look like if we step back in this gap? If we as church communities and as communities around churches say, we want to provide this therapy support for children, young people, and families of children with additional needs. And that was really important as part of the vision, looking not just at the child, young person, but also at their whole family. The number of families who say to me when they come into clinic, "Oh, I can't believe you've asked me how I am." I'm like, of course I've asked you how I am. And it's not that we don't do that if we're in the NHS or in other practice, but I think what's amazing at Growing Hope is that we get to really hold on to our value of community, which is about everyone being seen, heard, and able to belong. Our therapists really try and learn parents' names, really try and connect with parents so that they have this safe space where they can totally be themselves and receive the support that they need. So yeah, back in 2017, I'd spent a couple of years kind of going to Pete, my church leader at the time, saying, I think this is what I should be doing. I think this is what God is asking me to do. And I don't think I want to just set it up in King's Cross. I actually think it's something much bigger than that, hence our vision of 20 clinics by 2030, because actually I believe that the church is a brilliant vehicle to enable this to happen. And we've set up 2 charities, so Growing Hope nationally, which is a national charity, acting as a vehicle of support to provide everything that local churches and local clinics need in order to provide and set up and run these local therapy clinics. And then we're setting up local clinics across the country which impact children and young people with additional needs and their families.
And so you set up the national charity, and when were the extra clinics added, and how many are there?
Yeah, great question. So I set up the national charity and Growing Hope King's Cross at the same time. So as an OT, I was the first clinic manager, so the first person running that local clinic, did the national charity kind of on the side, gradually built that up and grew our team in King's Cross. So that was 2018 that our first clinic opened. Then in 2020, we set up Growing Hope Brockley. Obviously, a bit of a challenging time. We had our first fundraiser virtually because COVID hit, but that's doing really well, that clinic. And then 2022 we set up High Wycombe, and then 2023 we've just set up Growing Hope Gateshead, and we're looking for a clinic manager up there. And then just last week we got charity status for our next clinic, which is in Redbridge. Working.
And there are others in the pipeline?
Others in the pipeline. So hopefully here, and then we've got Southampton, Farnham, some more up north as well.
Yeah.
So.
And all working with local churches who are seeking to work with other partners outside of the church in the community.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
So a question then is, what could it look like in Maidstone?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I think it looks, however, it takes shape within your local community and within your local setting. It's really exciting. We're going to hear from Tony later about potential opportunities in terms of what that could look like, in those wider networks and collaborations here in Maidstone. And I think that is really exciting. I think, we've heard about the mental health needs within the community that you're in. When we talk about additional needs, we're looking at additional needs as really wide-ranging. So they could be learning needs, physical needs, mental health needs, undiagnosed needs, anything which is impacting on a child, young person's ability to participate in activity. That's something we're looking at. I've worked with children on sleeping through the night, through to, being able to say something positive about themselves within a session, to tying their shoelaces, to writing their name, to putting their T-shirt on by themselves. And I'm just notey. So my, speech language therapy colleagues will be working on saying phrases or sounds or communicating with symbols, or our art therapists or music therapists and counsellors will be working on emotional regulation or looking at how to process grief with a child, young person. And I think that's what's exciting. We start with a clinic manager who leads the clinic, and then as more funding is realised through fundraising, which we support with as a national charity, we see more and more clinicians kind of added, and that becomes the multidisciplinary hub, which is based within the church, offering families this free therapy service. And it's a very kind of straightforward model in that families come for an assessment, they then get 6 weeks of intervention where they work on 3 goals. I'm telling you part of my presentation later, but that's okay, we'll skip over it later. And then they go away for 3 months, and then they can come back. But it enables us to see lots of families and try our best to meet their needs.
And one of the things I really love about you, Naomi, is you're not just the founder of this charity that is seeking to grow nationally. You're still a practitioner. You still are involved in a clinic.
Yeah, absolutely. So I give half a day of my week. I, in full disclosure, I am taking a term off because I've just got married. But I normally give half a day of my week to providing free therapy and still meeting with families. And I think that's where I see the biggest impact. You know, I think of a young person that I've worked with recently who was finding it really challenging to be able to do the things that he needed to do every day, quite high functioning, but high levels of anxiety. And we, in our clinic, looked at actually, you know, how do our brains work? What does that look like for him? What could he do to help his body feel more calm when he's feeling agitated? And gave him some strategies that he could then take back to his life in school and at home. And although, you know, he found it quite challenging because he didn't want to talk about the things that were hard for him, actually he was able to make real progress in having some strategies that he could then use himself.
Yeah. We're going to watch a video in a moment of Caden. Tell us a little bit what lies behind the story here without sort of taking the thunder away from the video.
Yeah, so Caden is one of the children who came to our King's Cross Clinic. I first saw him maybe a couple of years ago, and he, because our King's Cross Clinic actually has lots of different therapies, so started with occupational therapy. We now have a speech and language therapist who's the clinic manager there, but they have OT, speech therapy, music therapy, children's counselling, all provided there, and Caden's had both OT, music therapy, and speech therapy, so over a period of time. But his mum came to us really quite desperate for support. Often it's super hard, as I'm sure lots of you are very aware. You know, waiting lists are currently 1 to 2 years plus to receive even a diagnosis, let alone to receive any therapy support. It's often quite hard for families. And Caden's mum came along to one of our courses, which is about what happens when your hopes and dreams change because of your child's additional needs. It's called When Dreams Change. And she's a single parent. She came to this course, and on this course she met another single parent who had a child with autism as well. Caden has autism and some other complex needs, but these mums connected with each other, they became friends, and they ended up going on holiday together, which is absolutely amazing. So, yeah.
Well, shall we watch this video? Great. Thanks, Naomi.
Thanks, Gareth.
Without the support of Growing Hope, we'd still be waiting for someone to see us, someone to realise that we're there, and I think we'd still be feeling very helpless and probably hopeless at times. Caden's 6, and when he was 2.5 he was diagnosed with autism. At the moment he's non-speaking and he attends a specialist school in our local area. After diagnosis we were pretty much left to our own devices, and then we went into lockdown, and it almost felt like Caden and us had been forgotten. We didn't know where to start. He's eating, toileting, difficulty with regulating his emotions. I didn't know where to start as a parent with the thoughts and feelings that I was having around having a child with different needs. It just all felt quite overwhelming. So when we found out about Growing Hope, I didn't really know what to expect from a small charity and what they could offer. But when we went along and they talked a bit about what they do, it just felt like it was support for Caden, which we desperately needed, but it was also support for our whole family. We felt visible and felt like someone wanted to help us. Caden's accessed quite a lot of their different therapy sessions. He really engaged with music therapy, which was amazing to see. He learned practical skills like turn taking and just how to articulate himself. I feel like Caden's much more confident in letting us know what he wants, and I think we don't feel we're second guessing him. We just know it's a process, and we feel more confident as parents that we can help him with what he needs. I know it sounds so cliche because it's Growing Hope, but I feel as a mum so much more hopeful for his future. I celebrate Caden in his own way. I can dream for Caden in a different way. I can see that he's going to have a good quality of life, and that doesn't stop because of his diagnosis. Having a child with additional needs is life-changing, but it isn't all negative. It's amazingly positive. Caden has made us all more kinder, more empathic, more compassionate. You know, we just better people from having Caden in our lives. Oh, I'm gonna cry.
Wow, what a wonderful story. What an incredible child and incredible parents. I want to invite Mandy to come and join me. Sorry? You've been wrecked by the video. Come on, Mandy. This is Mandy Milam. Mandy is married to Leon, who leads church Connect Church with Mandy.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about your journey as
Okay.
as a family
Yeah.
who have children with additional needs.
Okay, so we have 3 boys. We have 2 who have a diagnosis of ASC, autism, with very, very different needs. And our journeys with each of them has been very different. So Freddie, who is 15, was diagnosed at 3.5, and is non-speaking-ish. Says a lot, but a lot of it is echolalia, learnt response. Not much of it is two-way conversation. So, and he has a lot of other sort of complex emotional and behavioural needs too. Then we have Judd, who is 12, who is very much more sort of social, but suffers with real high anxiety and struggles on that basis of, you know, just managing everyday things because his anxiety is so high, and having to know what, when and where exactly all the time. So the diagnosis process was very different for both of them. I think with Fred it was very obvious from very early on, so that felt fairly straightforward, and at 3.5 that's quite young to be diagnosed, I believe. And that sort of progressed, and we got, you know, it was a statement then, it's now an EHCP, and he went into specialist school. And with Judd, it was very different. He wasn't diagnosed till he was like 6 or 7. He'd been in mainstream school, which was horrific for him. He learnt nothing. They babysat him. He was out of the class about 80% of the time, was being sent home. I mean, they wouldn't let him go full time for the first sort of year. He was doing sort of 2-3 hours a day. So we had a very different experience. He was diagnosed, and then we managed to gain an EHCP, and he moved to the same specialist setting as Fred. So that was very different, and our experiences in terms of accessing